Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. Today, we have Kevin Mahoney, the Vice President of Data Science at Travelers. And today, we're going to be speaking about data in the insurance space. So, welcome to the show, Kevin. It's so great to have you today.
Hi, Catherine. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And could you go ahead and just tell us more about your background and what brought you to Travelers?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'm Kevin Mahoney. I lead the data science discipline here at Travelers, and I'll just share a little bit about my background. So I've been working at Travelers for the past 15 years or so, really focused on how we can continue to transform what we're doing in insurance using data and analytics. For me, getting here was a little bit of a winding path. I actually started my career in the Coast Guard. So I went to the Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut to get my undergraduate degree. And while I was there, I studied operations research. But there was really a heavy probability and statistical component to what I did. So after serving out a tour duty on a ship in San Francisco for 2 years, the Coast Guard actually sent me back to graduate school to get a master's degree in statistics. In exchange for that, I went back to the Coast Guard Academy and taught in the math department for 4 years. So I was teaching calculus, probability, Bayesian statistics, linear regression, a few other courses. But I realized that I really wanted to move out of teaching and find a career where I could use all of these skills on real world problems. So I remember having a conversation with a recruiter at Travelers, and he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to do something with statistics, but I'm not sure if you do anything like that in insurance. And as it turns out, there's a lot of statistics work in insurance, Catherine. And for all of the data scientists and future data scientists listening into your podcast, I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about that intersection between data science and insurance.
Yeah, no, and that sounds great. And what is data science like in the insurance space? Tell us more about that.
Sure. Yeah, I should probably start out by saying that there are many different types of insurance. So a few of the main categories would be life insurance, health insurance, property and casualty insurance. Travelers is actually focused on that last area. So property and casualty insurance would include things that individuals might buy, like auto insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance. But it would also include insurances that businesses would buy, like workers' compensation. So for employees who get hurt on the job, or general liability insurance. So think about the people who might slip and fall in a store and look to be reimbursed for their medical bills, or even commercial auto or property coverage. So already you can see that there are a bunch of different flavors of insurance, which keeps things interesting. So what some people might not realize is the variety of analytic applications you get in an insurance company. Insurance is a unique product in that customers generally pay for it up front before it's even known whether coverage is needed. So not many other products like that I can think of. But if a customer does have a loss, they'll certainly be grateful for buying insurance. So you could have a fire in your house, get in an auto accident and incur significant medical bills. The cost to recover from those types of accidents can be pretty substantial. And so data science really supports a number of the analyses that we do. So as an example, just to tie it into math a little bit more, insurance actually relies heavily on the law of large numbers. So I don't have to predict exactly what will happen to any one customer, but I really have to be able to accurately predict what will happen in aggregate to millions of customers, so I can adequately price insurance policies. So that kind of connects the insurance with the analytics.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great that you found data science to be a kind of a great field for you to work in since you're very passionate about the statistics side. And data science uses a lot of statistics here. And with data science and with your line of work, I'm sure there's a lot of modeling and deep learning that is kind of integrated in your kind of work. So can you describe what this is and how you kind of work with this in your teams?
Yeah, I'll give you a few examples. So in our line of work, data science is pretty foundational. So for example, in insurance, we use something called the Tweedy distribution to model expected losses to help us accurately price policies. This is like a type of regression model in the family of generalized linear models, or GLMs, but you don't hear about it unless you're really in the insurance industry. So think of this probability distribution as a big spike at zero for those policies that don't have a claim in a given year. And then for those policies that do have a claim and do incur losses, then you've got a long tail distribution that explains what those losses could be. So our data scientists who work on these types of problems learn all of the technical skills required to build models using this Tweety distribution, and they learn how to check your data, how to build features, variable selection, the mechanics of fitting and validating a model. They also learn how to apply a business lens to the problem. So the cool thing is our data scientists become really experts in insurance as well, and that helps to bring our models to the next level. So, I'll give you one more example on the claims side where we use deep learning to make our customer experience better. You're on the West Coast, Catherine, is that right?
Yes, I'm in San Diego.
Yeah. So as you know, there's been a fairly substantial increase in wildfires out there. And if you're living in one of the affected areas, you may have to evacuate your home and you may not be able to get back to it for a few weeks. And I could imagine this would be an extremely stressful and nerve-wracking time for everyone involved and certainly for our customers. So to help our customers more quickly assess where their homes or businesses, whether their homes or businesses are damaged, we actually launched a tool that taps into high resolution aerial imagery taken as soon as possible following a catastrophe. And then we apply a deep learning model on top of that to assess which of our customer properties have been affected. So using this model, and this is the cool part, we can actually proactively reach out to our impacted customers and let them know what's happened, and normally before anyone can actually physically access the location. So sometimes we're actually alerting them to a claim that they didn't even know they had. Catastrophes can be pretty devastating, but here's an example where we're using deep learning and data science to actually do a social good and help people get back on their feet as soon as possible. And we do similar things and have similar tools for other catastrophes as well, like tornadoes or hurricanes. So, those are two specific applications, the pricing application and then one on the claim side, but there are many more. So we build fraud detection models. We build models to assess customer experience, models to triage claims, and we use a lot of the latest and greatest machine learning, deep learning algorithms to help us predict better. And we're dealing with structured data as well as unstructured data like images and text. I would suspect, and you tell me if I'm mistaken here, Catherine, I would suspect most people don't think of insurance when they think of data science. I know it wasn't something that I was thinking about when I was choosing a career. But there's actually a lot of data science that goes on in the industry.
Yeah, and it sounds like from what everything you just mentioned to me that there's a lot of different use cases and a lot of different projects that you work on for the insurance space right now for you. Do you have a specific project that you've worked on with travelers, specifically in the insurance space at all?
Yeah, I'll just go into fraud detection as another example. So I run a claims research organization at Travelers, and we're using similar advanced machine learning algorithms to try and understand who might be trying to commit fraud from an insurance perspective. There are sophisticated like auto insurance rings out there that might try and stage accidents in order to get money out of insurance companies. And so, just like a bank would do to try and understand fraudulent charges, that's something that we actually build models for as well to try and detect, potential fraudulent insurance claims. So, we're always on the lookout for potential fraud.
Yeah, definitely. And especially since this is the insurance space that you work in, I'm sure it's super highly regulated in terms of how people are accessing the data that you're working with. Have you ever faced any challenges with this kind of highly regulated field?
Absolutely. Perhaps the most challenging aspect of regulation is that insurance is actually regulated at a state level. So we actually have 50 different sets of regulations we need to comply with. And these regulations are in place to protect consumers, but each state approaches that in a slightly different way. So in some cases, that means we don't just build one model, we have to build multiple versions of a model to meet the requirements of the different states. And these regulations, they're evolving over time. So the need to maintain and update our models to reflect the changing landscape is pretty critical. I mean, we write millions of policies each year. We handle millions of claims. We collect or capture thousands of data elements, and there are rules around what data we can and can't collect. We're mindful of all of those rules. We have a set of best practices that we use to ensure we always follow the relevant state and federal guidelines. But obviously that adds to the challenges on the job. And something that might be a little bit unusual. We're also required to file many of our models with various state departments of insurance. So this is an interesting aspect you wouldn't see in other industries. There's a lot of communication that goes on between our modelers, our company with insurance regulators to explain how our models are functioning. So it's critical that the models we build are also explainable as well as just being highly predictive. So you can imagine how that adds a certain degree of difficulty to the process, and there's that balance between accuracy and explainability that must be considered.
Yeah, and that's actually a super important and interesting point that you brought up with that every state has their own kind of regulation. So sometimes, like, for example, myself, I'm not in the insurance space, so I wouldn't think about knowing all different models that you have to build in order to accommodate all of these. So that's super interesting to kind of hear about.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely different, something that makes insurance unique.
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of wrap up the conversation, do you have any final words or advice for those trying to get into the data science insurance sector specifically?
Yeah, there really isn't a barrier to entry for data scientists who are interested in joining our sector. But let me just provide a few of the skills I think it takes to be successful. And many of these would probably be useful in other industries as well. So obviously technical skills. So having a background in building statistical models, machine learning models, deep learning, that's all extremely valuable. Knowledge of a programming language is important. So Python is a language we use a lot. But it doesn't have to be Python. It's more about the ability to use a programming language to assemble data sets, build models, validate results. And knowing one programming language probably indicates that you're capable of learning another. So, just don't be discouraged if your resume is an exact match for a job posting. Critical thinking, super important for us. The types of problems we deal with are really challenging. So being able to dig into the data, look at output, decide whether or not something makes sense, that's invaluable. And having the intellectual curiosity to ask the right questions as you're building a model really separates good data scientists from great data scientists. But I would also say it's more than just technical curiosity. So you need to be curious about the business side of things as well. As I mentioned, insurance can be complicated, but that's what can also be fascinating about a career in insurance. There's just so much to learn. And maybe the last thing I'd mention here is communication skills. So it's one thing to have elite math and programming skills, but all that goes to waste if you can't explain it in a way that everyone can understand. So the ability to take those extremely technical topics, simplify them down so they're digestible for someone who is maybe non-technical or less technical, that ends up being the key to getting your work over the finish line. So, when it all comes together, the math, the theory, the programming skills, the business problem, that can be very gratifying to bring all those together, apply your skills to real world problems.
Yeah, definitely. Great explanation. And I wanted to say thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show. Where can everyone find you online to connect?
Thanks. Yeah. So honestly, Catherine, I keep a fairly low profile on social media, but I can be found on LinkedIn. So if you search my name in Travelers, I'm not hard to find. And I definitely look forward to making more connections with the folks in the data standard community. For anyone who's interested in a career Travelers, check out careers.travelers.com for more information. We hire all types of talent across a variety of analytic roles, even beyond data science. Travelers has been a great place to work. I've been there for 15 years, as I mentioned. And we're doing all the cool things that I've talked about and more. So really appreciate the opportunity to come on the podcast and talk a little bit about it. And I just say please reach out if you have any questions or want to have more conversations.
Great. And to our audience, for more information on the data standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as on our LinkedIn and YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us and giving us all of your great insight at what you're doing at Travelers. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine.